to 5 Things to Know, a Tax Talk Today exclusive. I'm joined today by Jessica Lucas-Judy. Jessica joined a GAO in the year 2000 and is currently a director in GAO's Strategic Issues Division. As a director, she oversees work on IRS and tax administration and policy issues, including IRS's tax filing season performance, implementation of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as well as the COVID-related tax relief for businesses and employers, IRS online services, and customer support, and leads the GAO's effort to identify and mitigate fragmentation, overlap, and duplication of federal programs. Jessica, on behalf of our viewers, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Tax Talk Today, where IRS representatives and tax industry leaders come together to share their knowledge and experiences working with the federal tax law. As a career tax practitioner, I really appreciate the work of the GAO on evaluating our federal tax programs and services to ensure they are running smoothly for everyone. I would like to ask a bit more about the important role that the GAO plays in the federal tax, but first, can you give our viewers an explanation of what the GAO's responsibilities are?
Sure. So GAO, or the Government Accountability Office, is part of the legislative branch of government. We're sometimes called the watchdog agency for Congress. And we provide Congress and the public with timely, fact-based, nonpartisan, independent information about government programs and services. And this runs the whole range across the entire federal government. So it includes defense, education, healthcare, energy, transportation, cybersecurity, and of course, tax policy and administration, what we're here to talk about today. We look for ways to make the government more effective, more efficient, to make sure that we're delivering results and also save money. In fiscal year 2021, for example, we identified $66 billion in financial benefits that resulted from our work. And in the past 5 years, we've averaged a $158 return for every single dollar that's invested at GAO. And I'm proud to say we've been doing this for about 100 years now.
Well, that's fantastic. What products has the GAO produced that support the tax preparers during filing season?
Well, we issue more than 100 reports every single year, and almost all of them are available on our website, which is gao.gov. But of particular interest, I think, to this audience would be our work that we do every year on the tax filing season. We look at IRS's performance in answering the phones and answering the mail, processing tax returns and issuing refunds. And we look for opportunities, any challenges the agency might be facing and opportunities to do things better. We'll make recommendations if we find anything to Treasury or IRS, sometimes even to the Congress, to address the issues that we face. And, for example, our most recent report, we had recommendations that IRS work with Treasury to modernize its Where's My Refund tool, because so many taxpayers were using it, trying to get information because there were delays in issuing refunds and processing tax returns. But that tool, the Where's My Refund, didn't provide enough information. And so we recommended that they modernize that to make sure it's really meeting taxpayers' needs. We've also been keeping an eye on interest payments that IRS has made to individuals and to businesses. This has been increasing. It was more than $3 billion last year, has been increasing just about every year. And if you look back over the last 7 years, it's not just related to delays from the pandemic. For 7 years, it's totaled $14 billion, which is almost, pretty much the entire budget of the IRS. So we think anything that can be done there to help manage and better address the refund payments would be important. So we recommended that IRS identify the reasons for the payments that it was making. Some of them are in IRS's control and some are not. And maybe take steps to address the issues that it faces. We don't just look at the filing season. We've also done a real-time audit across the whole government of the federal government's response to the COVID pandemic. And in the tax area, that includes relief provisions for businesses and for employers, as well as direct payments to individuals. The economic impact payments are, of course, the big one, as well as the advance payments of the child tax credit. And we made recommendations to IRS and to Treasury and other agencies to help better improve outreach to people who might not know that they're eligible, for the portal that people were using, the non-filer portal, to guidance that's being provided to make sure that the taxpayers are able to take advantage of benefits that might be available to them. And those are just a few of the many, many areas that GAO covers in the tax area. We've looked also at online services, at IRS's use of paper versus electronic media, security enforcement, and other areas as well.
Well, you started getting into that, but I want to get a little bit more information on that topic you just brought up. And what are some of the recurring challenges that JO has identified for the IRS? So you mentioned the paper, obviously. Can you give us a little more detail and really what you're looking at and hopes to straighten out over there?
Yeah, definitely the use of paper and the heavy reliance on paper is something that's been a big challenge at IRS. It really came to a head during the pandemic when they had to close some of the in-person operations, and IRS is still digging out from the backlog. And it affects not just the kind of things you might think about in terms of processing returns and being able to issue refunds. It also affects the phones, because the same people who answer the phones are the people who deal with the correspondence, and has an impact on IRS's ability to work on collections and enforcement and other operations as well. So definitely the reliance on paper is a big challenge. Another recurring challenge for IRS is IT modernization, its ability to manage and upgrade its information technology. And this is something that's not a unique problem for the IRS. This is an area that GAO has had on its list of high risk government programs and operations for a long time. But IRS in particular, one of its key systems is reliant on programming languages that were developed in the 1950s. And it's also struggled to upgrade a lot of the key IT systems that it uses to support all of its operations. So that's an area where we've had a number of recommendations about better having a strategy and a plan in place to modernize, and we continue to report on that. And then another area that I wanted to highlight that's a challenge is strategic human capital management. And that's another one that's not unique to IRS. That's a GAO or a government-wide problem, and is on GAO's high-risk list. But making sure that the agency has identified its key skills gaps and has a plan in place to address those gaps, to make sure that it's recruiting and hiring and retaining talent to meet its needs, not just now, but also for the workforce for the future. In addition, I mentioned the GAO's high risk list. Another area that's on that high risk list related to tax is the enforcement of tax laws. And that's one that's been on the list since the very beginning, dealing with IRS's ability to manage the tax gap, the difference between the taxes that are owed and the taxes that are paid on time voluntarily, as well as identity theft refund fraud. So that's another area that we continue to focus on. And then finally, I'll mention that we just issued a letter to the IRS commissioner detailing the recommendations that GAO has made that we think are the highest priority for the commissioner's personal attention, and we wanted to bring his attention to.
That's good that that's direct communication there. I think that should be, hopefully that'll be very helpful for both sides. This is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart as an enrolled agent. And after what went on for a few years ago, does the GAO have any thoughts on tax practitioner regulations?
Yeah, we have long said that Congress should give IRS the authority to regulate paid tax preparers. We think this would help improve accuracy of tax returns and help deal with improper payments, particularly dealing with the earned income tax credit. The tax code is quite complex, and taxpayers, both individuals and businesses, really struggle to make sure that they're doing the right thing and that they're complying with the tax law. And tax practitioners provide a valuable service there. both paid preparers and software providers as far as helping to navigate those complexities. They can also introduce errors, and some work that we did, some undercover work a number of years ago, even though it wasn't generalizable, we still found that some of the paid preparers that we reached out to introduced quite significant errors into the tax returns that they helped us prepare. We also studied IRS's National Research Program results, which those are generalizable. And we found about 60% of the preparers there had made errors. So we think it's important to give IRS that oversight authority. And then also we think it's important for the Congress to give IRS direct, explicit authority to regulate and provide standards for the security of information that paid preparers and software providers have.
As a quick follow-up, is there any avenue for the tax practitioner community to give feedback as far as any suggestions on regulation or anything else with the IRS to the GO?
In the course of doing most of our audits, we'll reach out to the tax practitioner community for focus groups or interviews, or sometimes direct interviews. We usually reach out through some of the key organizations like AICPA or others, but sometimes we'll reach out individually as well. And so just wanted to thank everyone who's participated in our work in the past. The stories that you all are able to share really do help provide some key context and illumination and examples for our work, and the Congress finds it very valuable as well. In addition, you can go to our website, gao.gov, and we have a Find a GAO Expert tool on there. You can get contact information for myself and for others at GAO to be able to reach out to us. And then I also want to mention our FraudNet. That's a service that we have, both a phone hotline as well as a website for reporting any concerns or allegations of fraud, waste, or abuse in government programs. So again, that's our FraudNet hotline on gao.gov.
Great. Now, as a final question, what's on the horizon for your programs at the GAO?
Well, I mentioned some of the reports that we've issued recently, including our work on the filing season and the work that we did on the COVID relief provisions. In addition, we've recently issued reports on remote sales tax and on tax equity issues among different demographic groups and households. And we have some reports coming out over the next year, again, on filing season, also on equity issues and demographic issues for small businesses. We'll also have some reports coming out on things like sole proprietor compliance and refundable tax credits and a whole host of other things. But if you want to keep up to date on GAO products, you can subscribe to our mailing list through gao.gov. You can also follow us on social media. In particular, the best way to keep in touch with us or to find out what we're doing is on Twitter. And our handle on Twitter is @USGAO.
Great. This has been really fantastic, Jessica. I do appreciate your time today. And thank you so much for joining us on 5 Things to Know. On behalf of our viewers, I want to thank you for your service with the GAO, particularly as Director of GAO Strategic and Issues Division. Your work in this role benefits the IRS as well as the tax practitioner community and our nation's taxpayers. Thanks again, and we look forward to having you back on another Tax Talk Today program. I'd like to thank all of you for watching today, and as always, it's been great learning with you. Be sure to join us soon on another Tax Talk Today program.